right, hello everyone. I'm very glad to welcome all of you on our Working with Stress and Burnout in the Company course. And today we are starting our first class, How Stress and Burnout Affect Business. Yep, so this is a course website, and this is a course program. We will start from the understanding how stress and burnout affects business. Then we will continue with causes of stress and burnout, because if we want to fight those, we should know causes. Then how to build an anti-stress culture. Then how HR should work with stress and burnout. How to train managers, and finally how to build a reporting system to monitor stress and burnout and the current situation in the company. Let me introduce myself first, because you may know myself, you may heard about me, but some of you meet me for the first time. So my name is Mike Pritula, and I started my work as HR in Alpha Bank in 2005. So it was a lot like a long ago. Yeah, a long time ago. And I was trainer and recruiter. Then I continued my work at STB TV channel, which is the largest media company in the Eastern Europe. And then I worked for Wargaming for several years, which is game development company. Then I built HR department for Preply company when they was just when they were just 50 people there. And then I built the HR department for Ideals company. Then I worked with PeopleForce to consult them how to build the product. And then I launched my own academy and courses, which I'm working now. This is my experience, and of course, working in different companies, I always faced as head of HR, I always faced stress and burnout in the company, and I had to deal with stress and burnout, to measure it, to take some actions to reduce the stress and burnout, and to build a new way of a new version of culture without stress and burnout. Because if you want your employees to be high performing employees, you have to somehow reduce stress and burnout. You have somehow build a culture when there is no place for such bad things like stress and burnout. They would be more manageable. So this is a best practice that I prefer to monitor. I also recommend you to monitor all these best practices as well, just to be in trend with all new knowledge and research. About homework, this course is all our courses. It has homeworks. And since we have 6 classes, you will have 6 homeworks. And accomplishing all those homeworks will allow you to receive our diploma, which we issue on a credible platform, which is very popular. Even Google companies like Zendesk, Harvard University, they issue their diplomas on the same platform. And this platform is one of the most popular in the world. Today's class program, we'll be talking about global research on stress and burnout. We will rely on CIPD and Deloitte research, and students will see those researches attached to today's class, so you may read them in details. Then we will discuss what is actually stress and what is burnout and what's the difference, and how to diagnose stress and burnout in a company, and also some other topics. So let's start. We live in the world which is changing constantly and rapidly, and this tempo of change, they are accelerating. We have more fast pace, more demand for our employees, less control, technology that makes you online 24/7. So you have to be online all the time, even if you don't want. You have your mobile phone with you, so you are always online. We have shift work. We have customer growth, insufficient and very often inadequate funding for well-being programs, and not just for those programs, but also for employee headcount and for everything. Low social support at work, interpersonal conflicts, low participation of employees in decision-making process in the company. And for some of professions, for some occupations, they have exposure to suffering, trauma, dying patients, and so on. And also recently there was COVID, and then there are some conflicts and even wars in the world. So like every time something is happening, something is influencing employee behavior and employee well-being, and we have to admit that, and we have to take control over that. Some consequences. Costs due to stress have risen 60% in the last 3 years. For example, in the United States, the cost of stress is 45 billion pounds a year. For example, for Ukraine, it would be $4.2 billion per year. And the source is Deloitte. What global research on stress and burnout tells us, what we should know, what we should rely our work on. So because, like if we want to do something in the company, we have to develop business case, cost benefit analysis, we have rely on some research, we have used data and facts, not just our opinion. So I always like take the recent research on the topic and attach them to my proposal when I present something to senior managers, to business owners. So the same I recommend to do for yourself. So you will find some documents attached to this webinar, but also you may just Google some more recent research, because if you will do this next year, for example, you will find even updated information. But let's rely on the current situation and current research and current information. So what has changed in the last 3 years? We have some positive changes. Let's start for them because it's good. There is no more support for staff, especially in larger organization. Sorry, there is now more support for staff, especially in larger organizations. We have all this kind of EAP program. We have corporate psychologists. We have expanded mentorship programs and coaching programs and so on. Increased public awareness of mental health issues through a number of high-profile campaigns and forums. And as you probably know, the World Health Organization, which is WHO, they admit that burnout is a professional illness, and they even, before the COVID, they called burnout is the pandemic of the century. And reducing resentment at work related to mental health issues. But also we have some negative changes, and as you can see, we have even more of them. The burden of poor mental health at work disproportionately affects young people, and there has been an increase in the incidence of mental health problems among this age group. The rise of vacation work. There is even term, they call it workation, work and then vacation. So together they call it workation, where workers are unable to disengage from the work through the increased use of technology that promotes burnout. An increase in the number of people working on short-term contracts, like also gig contracts, in freelance work or without sufficient support from the employer, creating uncertainty about their financial future and with little regard for their mental health and well-being. All these people working through Upwork, Freelancer, Fiverr, and other kind of services, they of course they have less coverage of different well-being programs, or they probably have nothing in that area. Mental health. Mental health is defined by WHO, which is again World Health Organization, as a state of mental and a psychological well-being in which each person realizes his or her potential and can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute to the society. Mental health is determined by a range of socioeconomic, biological, and environmental factors. And well-being, right, which is a very important term. Actually, it's one of the most recent trends, and it's been trend for several years by different companies. Well-being is defined by the UK Department of Health as feeling well and functioning well, and includes each individual's life experiences and a comparison of life circumstances with social norms and values. Well-being can be either subjective or objective. Mental well-being. Mental well-being describes a dynamic mental state. A person with good mental well-being is capable. And let's see the list. Feel relatively confident and have a positive self-esteem, which is very important for so many professions. Feel and express a range of emotions. Build and maintain good relationships with others. Feel a sense of belonging to the wider world. Live and work productively. Cope with the stresses of everyday life, including work-related stress, and adapt and cope in times of change and uncertainty, which we are facing right now in the world. Work-related stress, what is that? Work-related stress, as defined by WHO, is a response that people may experience when they are present with demands and pressure that are not commensurate with their abilities, resulting in inability to cope, especially when employees feel they have little support from supervisors and no control over work processes. And now about the differences, because we have to know those differences between stress and burnout. So stress is over-involvement or over-engagement when emotions are overly sensitive and behavior is anxiety or hyperactivity. But burnout, this is detachment, uninvolvement, disengagement, when emotions are diminished and behaviors are depression, alienation, helplessness, or hopelessness. So you see the difference, right? They are not similar. They have different nature and different expression. Depression-related symptoms most commonly cited. Here we have figure 1, percentage of respondents experiencing common mental health related symptoms. We have the data, yeah, and most of them, they admit they have depression, then a little bit less emotional exhaustion or burnout, irritability or anger, sleep issues, and anxiety. Now let's learn some new words and new terms just to better understand what's happening in today's world. So first, it's presenteeism, like being present. Presenteeism, it's the opposite to absenteeism, right? So presenteeism is defined as attending work when sick and therefore unable to work to one's full potential. Presenteeism can be either positive or negative and can be caused by a variety of factors. Then we have leavism, from leave. Leavism is a term describing the growing tendency for people to be unable to switch off from work. This is becoming increasingly common as remote and flexible working has become easier due to technology and can lead to overwork, lower workforce morale, and burnout. Leavism occurs when employees use their allotted time off, such as annual leave, flexible work schedules, and restored days off, to work when they are actually unwell. Employees take work home that cannot be done during normal working hours. Employees work while on vacation or even holiday to make up for lost time. So you see, probably think about yourself. Like, when was the last time you were present at work by it being sick? When was the last time you had this leavism and you can't switch off from work, right? So now about results. 41%, actually this site, they publish results in on real time, so they update them constantly, so you may check the latest information here. 41% of people had psychological problems. 56% are willing to talk about psychological health at work, which is good. And 300,000 people lose their jobs every year because of mental health problems in the UK. Yeah, United Kingdom. What stress consists of? So when we stress costs, right? When we talk about stress costs, how companies lose their money, 60% it's about absenteeism. So people, they are not being present at work when company needs them. Then 64% it's presenteeism. And this is loss of efficiency. And 20% it's turnover. So just companies, they lose their talents. Yeah. Also, as I mentioned before, it's especially increasing for younger people. So here we have the comparison with age and costs for stress and burnout, and then the percentage of total costs as a proportion of average annual earnings. So the highest cost is for younger people, 8.3%. And then by increasing the age, we see the decline. Like we may say that older people, they are more resistant to stress and burnout, probably because of the experience or because of their financial stability, probably because of their seniority in the company and other things. But yes, we have to pay more attention to this younger group of people. And for some companies, they actually have just this age of employees, right? So like, let's think about very young startups or high-tech companies. In average, they have younger average age of their employees. How much stress and burnout is costing you for your company? If we know that, let's take 7% as an average between these two groups, which is the biggest population in every company. So let's say we have 7% of annual compensation as cost of burnout and stress for your company, right? So depending on how many employees you have, depending on their average salary, you may calculate the average cost of stress and burnout for your company, or you may use the formula. So you multiply number of employees, their average salary. Here I have monthly salary and I multiplied by 12. You may take annual salary, so you don't need to multiply by 12. And then 7% of costs of burnout and stress. Also, what is interesting, causes of work-related illnesses. It's increasing. You may see that some data we have here, they are till the previous years, because some researchers, they didn't perform recently. So I was looking for this information for more recent research, but at the moment we don't have, so we only may rely on this. But also I have other statistics more recent about this year or previous year. So we have different kind of information here. But what's interesting, we may see that stress, depression, or anxiety is increasing among causes of work-related illness. So we have to focus our efforts first on fighting with this, not just the general health or physical health. Here we have causes of stress. Actually, I don't like this kind of charts. You don't like to read like this, so I have this same information presented in normal orientation. So, reasons for stress: 52% pressure, too many priorities or goals, and etc. 36% due to workload, I had to work overtime and or rarely took vacations. Then 35%, I was not supported in my role. And 33%, negative working relations. You know, these toxic employees at work. Then I didn't feel I could trust my manager. So leadership issues. Then 33% organizational changes were poorly implemented, or feeling like I was underpaid. And that is interesting. Like, people feeling stress and burnout even because they feel they are underpaid. Feeling stuck without making progress. Here we are talking about career progress. being bullied or harassed by managers, which is awful actually. Feeling lonely or isolated at work. This is because of COVID and this post-COVID world and all this remote work, these freelancers. I had no control over my work. My role was never clear on and or it changed regularly. Uncertainty of future employment. Again, we are facing economic decrease and downturn, so more and more people they face this situation. Unpredictable hours of work, shift or income, bullying or harassment from coworkers, which again is totally awful, effectiveness of my organization, pressure from specific sectors, bullying or harassment from customers and clients, inflexibility affected my responsibilities, other I can't remember, prefer not to say. Also, what we see, absenteeism was decreasing before 2020, but now we see the growth. It started increasing, which is again interesting. The most common causes of absent by percent of respondents who include in their top three causes. So in top three causes of short-term absence, up to 4 weeks, minor illness like cold, flu, stomach upsets, headaches, or migraines, mass MSD injuries, let's say it like this. Yeah, mental ill health. So you see the mental ill health is among top three. Then COVID and then again stress. And for long-term absence, and which is interesting, mental ill health on the first place and stress on the fourth. So you see how it's important to manage stress and burnout and mental health just to reduce absenteeism, just to reduce all these problems connected to these causes. Top 10 commonly used approach for managing absence, short-term, long-term. So, short-term and long-term return to work interviews, working good. Then trigger mechanism to review attendance. Here we have employee assistance program. Then providing leave for family circumstances. And here we have trigger mechanism to review attendance. Employee assistance program, occupational health involvement, and other approaches. Loss of days due to stress, what we see here is also increasing due to stress. So stress causes more and more expenses, more and more problems, more and more situations for the company. How does it manifest itself? What people say? Observed over the last 12 months. Yes, employees work outside contracted hours to get work done, 51%. Then 37. No, I'm not aware of leavism in my organization. 36. Yes, employees use allotted time off, for example, holiday when unwell. And yes, employees allotted time off holiday to work. So we see again, we see some problems. What companies can do with everything we talking today? Introduce more flexible working hours. Incentivize people to use their vacation time and actually remind them about their vacations and plan those vacations. Train employees to pick up the work of their colleagues when they are overloaded. Remind employees about vacations. Gently distribute the work of employees who are severely overloaded. Encourage people to try to relocate work themselves when they are overloaded. Use out of office autoresponders. Hire enough staff. Train employees to notice lividity signals, working early in the morning or late at night, sending emails on weekends, and so on. And train supervisors to manage workload and set adequate expectations. Another cause of stress is debt. So this is a debt per household and debt to income ratio. What we see here is also increasing. What companies can do here? Get involved in employee issues, provide financial training, support where needed. And $1 spent here gives a return of 3.5 in the form of reducing absenteeism and stress reduction. Teenagers are also susceptible. So what we see, mental health trends in 11 to 15 years. And it's again increasing, both total and anxiety. Return on investment. We have so many different programs and different approaches to fight stress and burnout, and they have quite high return on investment. So you may consider all this to introduce in your company, but of course rely on higher return on investment programs and less rely on this. How much to invest? Okay, so let's say we see that the average return on investment is 5.1. So we invest $1 and we have $5 as a benefit. And let's say average cost of stress and burnout for your company $300,000. So if the average payback is 5 to 1 or average ROI, it means we should invest just $60,000 and we will return $300,000. And again, this was calculated for 500 employees. So like actually we may spend just $120 per employee per year to reduce stress and burnout in the company. And return on investment by areas. If we group all these programs into different areas, we will see that awareness raising is 5.3 to 1, training 6.3 to 1, diagnosis 6.3, and treatment 2.6. So it's better to do something in advance than try to cure it later. Why aren't HR being approached if they are not by employees to have the support, let's say? Thought it was unlikely to provide support, the main reason. Did not want to make it formal, worried about confidentiality, did not want to discuss with anyone at work, didn't want many people to know, thought I would be supported by colleagues closer to me. So again, consider this and think how you may improve it, how you may help those people to fight with stress and burnout. How to understand that you have signs of stress and burnout in the company. If your absenteeism level is increasing for several years, and also your presenteeism level is increasing as well, MSD and other injuries are increasing, complaints and or internal conflicts are increasing, you have workers with an exaggerated sense of responsibility, you have workers or employees expressing inadequacy of accomplishments, you have more errors, you have lower quality of service, lower quality of work, you observe lower morale of employees, let's say measured by Gallup Q12 or by ENPS or by other approach. Yeah, your turnover is increasing. You have people with low self-esteem or devaluation of their achievements. Your health or disability-related costs are increasing. Your mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety disorders are increasing. All of these are signs of stress and burnout, and they are telling you that it's time to start fighting with them. Okay, these were about recent researches about stress and burnout and how it affects business. Next time, we will be talking about causes of stress and burnout. Your homework. Calculate the cost of stress and burnout for your company using the formula average salary of an employee per month multiplied by 12, or you take annual salary. So you then multiply by 12. Then you multiply by 7%, which is average cost of stress and burnout, and then you multiply by headcount. And given that the average return on wealth investment is 5 to 1, divide the resulting figure you obtained here by 5 and write your recommendations on how that amount should be invested, for example, and then you describe the amount on different directions. Materials, as I mentioned, you have these two, actually you will have three researchers, recent researchers, 2022, 2023. Actually, we don't have yet 2024, so we are expecting 2024 and 2025, right? Because they publish after the year ends. So this is the most recent, and this is a book. I'm not attaching the book. You will buy it if you want, but I'm attaching this researcher, they're free. Yeah, this is it. Thank you for your attention and see you soon. Bye.